I want to be very specific. We begin the target in high school, from senior high school to the universities. Now, because these are the future of Africa. Now, if we want to change our message, and we're starting from within, from ourselves, we must look at the active strata of the continent, and that would be, like I said, those in senior high and those at the university. Of course, that does not limit us to this strata alone, but these are objectives, or rather, these are target audience for a start. Because as soon as they are done from that phase, of course, they will be going to the other parts of the world, and with whatever orientation they would have had during this period, they would take that along with them, thereby becoming our ambassadors by proxy. For now, that's who I think our target audience should be: the senior high school students and the university students.
Jude was talking of, we are looking at the target audience, we are looking at those audience that we need to target, and Jude has given us a very interesting point on targeting high school and university students as one of the target groups. I don't know whether anyone has another additional information on our target audience, please. We can keep our thoughts coming, please. Anything else?
Hello, Danny.
Yes.
Like, just not to forget that the points that we mentioned earlier, our audiences, we can also like attracting the already established youth activism group, like in every level, like community level. I like the idea we focus on the university students. Sorry about my background, not construction is going on. But we should also focus on what about the other users that will get a chance to attain higher level institutions. So we should also, I think, consider youth groups in every level.
That's a very interesting point that you have there, because you realize that not everyone actually makes it to university. Not everyone makes it to college actually. So targeting youth from another level too is very interesting. So so far we have targets to high school and universities. I would like to review this so that we move very fast, because I believe we have limited time. Now we looked at the first agenda on the name, and on the first agenda we looked at propositions such as Africa Rise, Africa Youth Rise. Someone gave a suggestion about the Africa Youth Movement magazine, and additionally we also actually said we have a week to think about it. We have a week, 1 week to think about this, because Africa Rise, as Adugna told us, is so politicized, and our movement is not a political movement. So probably we should have a week and discuss it over on the Facebook page, and probably actually vote on it. Then we will to the objectives. So after that, we went to the objectives, and we had very interesting objectives. The first one being channeling our success stories that are meant to inspire other movements, to inspire other people, the youth in Africa, as well as to give a positive message about Africans as a means of branding us, as a means of bringing a different perspective of what we think of the African development. Secondly, we had the same point linked together to a way of Africa, bringing different things, different concepts on board, as well as telling stories of excelling youth. These are very interesting activities, and on this we also said we are going to think of more objectives of what we want specifically to be on the magazine. Thirdly, we looked at the target audience, and we are actually in this particular agenda. In this target audience, we have two target audiences. We are looking at the youth, but what kind of youth are we looking at? We are looking at the youth in high schools and youth in high universities, and as well as other youth in SMEs, the small and medium businesses, right? Small and medium enterprises, as a way of retelling their stories and bringing the stories to the limelight of the world, to motivate them, to let them get some kind of uplifting as well as networking. I don't know what we think on this because we are still on the target audience. Could we have something small on the target audience before we go ahead? Something on the target audience. What is our target audience? Do we just focus on the youth, please, or look at other things? Anyone before we look at the other agenda? Yes, please. Yes.
Well, I think probably, the kind of thinking that I have at the moment is that, the movement itself, we are targeting the youth, but also we are also involving other players. Like, for instance, this is more like an advocacy group that is there also to look at things that the movement can move forward and become a voice for the youth in Africa. Well, this is the kind of thinking that I have. So if that's the kind of thinking that we can all agree with, so I'm thinking that whom do we target and whom do we bring on board, whom do we tell about the youth movement in this magazine? So, well, my list is quite exorbitant, it's quite huge. Well, I first looked at the regional blocks. Whom should we target so that they can push forward the youth voices? Then regional blocks like IGAD, COMESA, the East African Community, ECOWAS, something like that in Africa, and also the, what should I call them, consulates or embassies, something like that that we can go to, so that probably we can tell them, share with them, that this is what is on the ground, so that we move them forward, and then move forward with them onwards. That's the kind of thinking that I have.
That is fascinating. Actually, you brought a very new dimension. You brought a very new dimension to the magazine. Actually, in terms of where are we taking this magazine, apart from giving it to high schools and universities so that they can be motivated. You're also talking about bringing corporates on board, about in terms of organizations that are for youth, such as the IGA. That is very interesting. And also looking at consulates and embassies, because this is a way of connecting Africans together. This is very interesting, and I second you on that. Yeah. Yes.
For the targeted audience, I would strongly recommend that even in your countries and regions, we target the media, we target the government, because we have now working with the media, and we see the government as well. Some private corporations that are highly listened. Can we include the African government in our targeted audience, supporting for zero countries? And the media institutions within our zero countries, can we our targeted audience in order to tell our African youth how they can know the government? Because this whole idea is about telling the talent of African youth. If the media, the local media, the countries, they have to know about this movement. Thank you,
Levis, but you are breaking. Could you speak and type it too so that every one of us gets what you're saying? I like your point, but you're breaking so we can't hear it very well. Please just type it up on the chat, and then we are also going to let it wait as we read it. That would be much better. Thank you. Thank you. As Levis is typing out his contribution, yes, Jude, would you please go ahead?
Yeah, George, I understand the FPD thing, let my trade. I want us to get understand what it is about and how the system in which we want to communicate using the magazine. Now, when I say the youth as a target, don't forget what your objective is to change the narrative. That is, speaking in general, is to change the narrative from what it is to what it should be. Now, what I suggested, those in your highs and the universities, no. There are those who are outside of Africa who have a different perspective of Africa. I don't know if you get my point. Now, I mentioned along one of my initial pockets of Africans, young Africans who are excelling in business. excelling in sports, excelling in, in the arts. Do you understand? Excelling in all spheres of life and have their stories told in our magazines, as the case may be. Now, we use channels of the hotels in Africa, the airlines, like I suggested, to send these messages around. That means our target audience are those who are those within and outside of Africa, those inside and outside of Africa, those who come to Africa to do business, the foreigners, the non-Africans, even the Africans who different perspective of who they really are, who their identity really is, would also have access to this material, and begin to read and have a different story told to them by us. I don't know if you understand. And in addition to what Joel, right, if I'm not mistaken, Joel said in terms of having to get the government involved, definitely, most definitely, because the government agencies, the bilateral and multilateral organizations have bigger platforms than what we have currently at the is. So definitely, we must solicit their endorsement, one way or the other, But the point is, we must first of all have our stories, and must have our stories right, and begin to tell our stories. We're not going to wait for that to probably get their endorsements, right? Yes, as we solicit their partnership, we also going to keep doing what we are doing at the moment. And I bet you will get whatever support we can, there is, that they should give us in this regard. Even if it doesn't come at the place we want them to do, but the point is we will definitely get their support in this regard. Thank you.
That is a very interesting point. Thank you very much. That is very, very interesting, and that's really nice, because the point is that we have youth in high school, youth in universities, youth out in school. That's a very interesting point. Interesting projects and interesting business. They're doing very incredible things in the community, but no one is talking about it. So the magazine is meant to bring them out, showcase them, and portray them to the investors, tell positive stories about it. So that at the end of the day, we are going to have a way of connecting communities, a way of connecting youth and bringing youth to us together. That's fine too. That's the same part. That's really cool. Yes. Could we close up on this, please? Thank you. We close up on this. And the last talk maybe on this, the last thing before we look at something else. Anybody with additional opinion on that, please? Probably we look at the next agenda. We look at the next agenda. That is agenda number 4. That is the model of information collection. Who and where to get those information for publication. We are looking at agenda number 4. This is the model of information collection. We are looking at who should get this information and where do we get this information for publication. This is very interesting. This is very, very interesting. And as a journalist myself, I find this very interesting because you have something to say.
I'm thinking that the mode of collecting this information is that now we are going to have country representatives and we are going to have regional representatives. So I'm thinking now the country representatives, the 2 people we have suggested that can sit. I mean that are from each country. That's a female and a male. They can sit together, come up with a story that they think they can share with the entire group and for the magazine. Then actually that would mean they iron out all the necessary information that is needed to be actually that they think they can be shared. Then from that, then they send it to the secretariat, and this regard the secretariat is going to be at the AYM.
I find that interesting, and I feel that we should also try to look at different departments within the African youth movement. We should try to look at different departments that can actually publish these stories. Because if the coordinator is actually to look at everything else, then it could also be very hard. But at the beginning, of course, we could have the coordinator. What do you think, guys? Yeah. Yes, please. Yes.
Yes, I was just about to say the moral information gathering. I think that Yeah, we have like a media committee. The media committee should be responsible for gathering stories from other people across. But then, until they can come to full swing, until they can really start work. So for me, I suggest that the information gathering portion should be stable for now until we can get the structure of this, in the media, correlating department, not being a media department. I'm not a media person, so I tell you I was able to write a story to send forward. Thank you.
What I was trying to say is that in gathering the information, we shouldn't be too dogmatic in our approach, especially in this regard, considering that we are working from different parts of the continent. As it is, suggest in our own countries or communities, I'm sure we have people, there are people we know around who are doing something things great, in their own little way. So I would suggest that, we can categories. If you want to write an article, you could probably have an interview with them through a designated channel for the media group of AYM or the media committee. Those notes or conversations can be sent to them for editing. Now, the media committee would now decide which comes first for publishing and the rest. They didn't make all of those decisions. But we can keep getting stories. We should keep getting stories, get as many stories as we can get, or many events happening around us. We could take these things down, and also, send across to the media team, who would now decide on how to edit and do the rest of the work, and presentation and the likes of that. But if we say we want to wait for them to do everything, you must consider that the structure might not be in such a way that, they can be part of the continent. So what I'm trying to say is that in this regard, we can also participate, even without being a member of the media team. We can also participate by story. You can leave the professional work to them to do. That's my point. But we should keep getting stories. We can get stories in January and have it published in July. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. You can have a story in February and have it published in December. That will be entirely up to the media team and the coordinators there, as the case may be. But we shouldn't just limit ourselves to, the committee getting the story and we can help.
So I would like to say something on this. When you talk about the committee getting stories, I was actually getting it in terms of having central coordinators at country levels, so that the committee actually becomes the recipient. Yeah, the committee, the coordinator becomes the recipient of the stories we have at country level, and it disseminates it back to the central coordinator or to a central media committee point where we can actually publish the story.
Okay.
Thank you. So we all have an agreement that the committees, the coordinators will actually gather the information, everybody to gather the stories, submit it to the country coordinators, and the country coordinators will actually review them and send them over for publishing or for storage or whatever we agree upon this meeting, right? Thank you. Now, on the same note, I'm also thinking that in the process of doing this, I don't know how well capacitated we are in terms of gathering the stories or in terms of editing, because we should also employ a little bit of professionalism in this. I have some media connections that have applied place, for instance, and routers, and these are media recommendations that can actually be revealing some of our ideas. They could have, for instance, for a moment, we could have some of the stories through the magazine sent to them and then published by them from us. I don't know what you think about that, but then this is a process of building on our capacity and building on our know-how in the way forward. I don't know if I'm making a point.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I said? Yeah, so I'm thinking of basing on our professionalism in terms of who should actually, we should have some kind of website, you know? We should have some kind of website or some kind of site linkage where we can have ideas coming in, you know? We can have some kind of censorship. When we have articles, these articles can go through the website. And then the website can be a way of reviewing. I believe we all have the capacity within our society. So someone with so much professionalism in this can be looking at them and actually giving them credibility before we publish them. So anyone else with an idea on this, please? Anyone else who can give any contribution? Anyone else?
Well, I think this is one of Aya's strong points. Aya is a media personality. I know she's watching and observing, like she said. She understands more about media and the phrase. But I'm also thinking about like you said, distribution. The decision of, well, I know now be up to the committee to.
Yeah, I would like you to repeat the point, please. Kindly repeat the point, please. Good.
Just in furtherance to what you were saying, I was saying, media happens to be one of Aya's strongest point as a person. But however, my own concern also, an additional concern, has to come in the area of distribution. For those, when we have a website, for those, the other parts of Africa that would not be having access to websites, how do we get across to them by, to have the hard copies, and how do we, the decision of what quantities should be printed, where, when, how do we distribute? Of course, I know this has to do with the country coordinator, but I'm asking because, of course, I know printing costs money. It's also going to require a lot of resources, and these are things we also begin to look at now at this stage, because you can have a story to tell, and you don't have a means of publicizing your story too. It's also very important to looking at.
Dennis, like, I have an IT background and working in a gender. I know that like, I'm always conscious about using the new media and how it doesn't include parts of the society, most of the parts of the society in Africa. So I mean, it would be glad we really can reach more audiences if we use the online platform, like making the magazine online. Using like the social medias, like to send our message, like to publicize it and things like that. We also should consider, like what I mentioned earlier, the youth groups, like at a community level, like really like in the rural community in Ethiopia, for example, who don't even have an access to televisions and that kind of technology, let alone internet. So we can also we should also consider distributing the offline materials. So like we should also come up with a plan for that. That's my thing.
We have a little bit I find that more convenient because we actually have it doesn't require a lot of financial implications. But in regard to offline publication, I'm thinking more in terms of encourage to certain magazines or certain newspapers that are aligned to the community before we really get to reach there in form and physical form. And do you understand what I'm saying? I'm talking about having an online idea where we have the online ball rolling. When we start with the online ball, then with time as a future objective, we target and we go up to the offline model. That is with enough partners on board and with enough financial support. Then, meanwhile, we should not really disregard the offline support because we have magazines already. We have magazines at the rural level. We have school magazines. We have magazines in different communities targeting these people. If we write articles to them from Africa Youth Movement magazine, then they would probably publish it. You know, with time we get to get a branding of ourselves. The branding becomes very important to actually launch the offline model. That is my take on this. Could we please have finalizing comments before we an agreement on this? What do we think, guys? That we go the online way for now, and then with time we could also still target writing articles for the offline models, especially those magazines that are at grassroots level, poverty stricken areas, or maybe areas with no access to the digital divide. I'm waiting for our contribution on this.
Sorry, what, say that again, Daniel, just the last, your last sentence, sorry.
Thank you. I'm saying that we should start with the online model. We, you know, when we discuss these issues, we should discuss them with an aim of thinking ahead and starting from a particular point. So the particular point I'm thinking of starting from here is the online blog or the online magazine. And with time, we should also target writing articles from Africa Youth Magazine to offline magazines, especially these magazines that are driven by high schools or magazines driven by organizations targeting the rural communities with no digital divide. I want to believe that we understood so much of what we discussed today. In our meeting today, we talked about the name, the proposed name of the magazine, and we came up with suggestions such as Africa Arise, Africa Youth Arise, or Africa Youth Movement magazine. And this is very, you know, the names actually have some kind of political connotations. So we agreed to take 1 week to think about the particular name that we feel is suitable for this magazine. So we will have a 1 week, and we can give our suggestions on Facebook, depending on this, and whatever name we come up with, just keep in mind that the name we should come up with should be a unique name, something that can brand us, something that can bring us together, something that can actually consolidate our ideas and channel our stories to the outside world and within ourselves as a means of bringing our spirit and our efforts together to a better Africa. On to the second point, we also talked about our objectives, and we had very interesting points from you guys about channeling our stories. You know, this magazine should be a way of channeling our stories, inspiring youth and movements, bringing messages, positive messages about Africa as a way of changing the narrative we always hear about Africans, you know, lazy Africans and developed countries, because I believe we have very interesting points and interesting developmental ideas about the African youth that we can tell the world. Lastly, we agree that on the objectives, still closely tied to the first one, is telling our stories of excellence. I believe we have different points from Selma-Wit, and we will harmonize this. And if you have anything else on the objectives, what you feel should be our focus point for the magazine, feel free to add it on the Facebook page, and we can actually harmonize a document that we shall share with you guys on Facebook. On the third point, we talked about target audience, and we actually are focusing youth. And our focus in youth should be youth in high schools, universities, as well as youth outside universities, outside colleges, youth with small and medium businesses, youth with upcoming enterprises, and how we can actually bring them together. So our target will be telling these people's stories, their projects, bringing it on the magazine. And we could give this to organizations, we could give this to embassies and consulates as well as airlines. And this will be a way of linking our youth to corporates and partners who will be interested in making their ideas become a success. Lastly, we also talked about the mode of information collection. We talked about the mode of information collection, and we said that we shall focus basically on everyone writing articles, but then submitting these articles to the country representatives. We should submit these articles to the country representatives, and then we can actually harmonize. But then on this note, we have said that we will focus more on the online blog or the online website. That we should also try to certain magazines that host some of our stories to as well as organizational base in the rural areas. At the end of the day, we can also have online communication. That means we could also have the particular stories, interesting stories written out to those particular small magazines within the organizational level that can touch the rural areas as well as those areas without internet connection. That is what we have for today, and I would really suggest that we close this meeting. Any addition we have before we close the meeting?
I just wanted to say something finally before we get to go.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much for everybody for your time. But however, please don't mistake it. Of course, we don't want to be political. We are not here for political reasons. You know, but the truth about it is, everything we're doing is all have some political influence. So, in as much as politics is not the objective, I'm not afraid to go in that direction, because the point is we want our voices to be heard, and we want our voices to be taken into cognizance in whatever decisions that are made or that are going to be made in Africa. So, and these decisions are usually made during at a political level. So, if we would have to, raise our games to that level, don't mind. I would encourage every one of us, because the reason why we have gotten to where we are as a continent is because of our non-participation in the decision-making process within our various countries. So, yes, it is not a political. Right now it has a political undertone, but however, whatever we do here is certainly influence that. Yes, I am. Yeah, social movement. Yeah, so basically that's my point.
I wish to.
Can I have one point?
Yes,
I'm thinking like for the magazine we can also have online, which of course has been brought out, but in the sense actually what I'm trying to drive at is we can come up with the social marketing, like for instance the one that you just read in the email. That's what I'm referring to. For the members and also the members that can be dealing with. Let me say, like for instance, if we are affiliated with embassies, we are affiliated with some organizations whereby although we will be having the public in physical form, but we can also have the ones that we can send out on email, whereby it just comes as an email. The newsletter in an email. That's what I wanted also to bring forward, because we hadn't raised it yet.
You are saying that we should also have the online newsletters being circulated through emails. Is that right?
Yes, it just comes into might bring on to who we might also share with the sense of privacy.
Okay, thank you. Yes. I think that is a very interesting point, Joel. I think that's a very interesting point, Joel, about having the online publications circulated within various markets and various reach, especially within our information. And to close this story, we have looked at a very interesting thing that you talked about in terms of, I also talked about the influencing policy. Most of the time the focus of politics is on politics of leadership and status. But people fail to look at politics in terms of participation, We have certain policies that are democracy. We have certain policies such as good governance, democracy, that we need to put into practice. And actually certain organizations are putting these things into practice. If the magazine can capture this and bring this to the limelight, then we shall be bringing a very good direction and good process in our change. Otherwise, I wish to close this because we are way past time, unless someone has the last word to say. Something more pressing that cannot be sent on Facebook. If you have anything to say, you can also send it on Facebook. Okay. Thank you very much. So if there's anything that we need to have, let's post it on our Facebook page. We shall coordinate with Wit and have the document ready and posted on Facebook page for us to view what we actually talked about. Thank you very much guys for listening. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.